Let me start by asking you a question. What makes you wealthy? And I'm not necessarily talking about money. If you couldn't tell me how much is in your bank account, what would your answer be? Maybe you already know, maybe you've never really thought about it before. Either way, don't worry about answering it yet. Just keep that question somewhere in the back of your mind, because we'll come back to it. My name's Zach, and I'm the Rune Realist. Welcome to the first week of 24 weeks with the Elder Futhark, Living the Runes. If you watched the introductory video, you already know that we're doing things a little differently with this series. We're going to learn about each rune, of course. We'll look at the history, the rune poems, and how people interpret these symbols today. But I don't want this to be a series where you memorize 24 definitions and call it a day. I want us to spend some time with them. So each video is going to give us something to explore for the following week. And yes, technically you could sit down and binge this entire playlist in a weekend. I'm obviously not going to come to your house and stop you, but I'd encourage you not to. There's a difference between knowing what Fehu means and actually spending some time paying attention to the ideas Fehu represents. So wherever you're finding this video, whether it's the week I uploaded it or 5 years from now, you're not too late. This is week 1, and we're starting with Fehu. So this is Fehu. It's the first rune of the Elder Futhark, and its reconstructed name basically means cattle or livestock, which probably isn't the exciting, mystical answer some people are expecting. But think about the world these runes came from. Imagine winter is approaching and your family's wealth isn't sitting safely in a bank somewhere. It's standing outside. A healthy herd gives you food. It gives you materials you can use. It gives you something valuable to trade with your neighbors. And here's a part I find interesting. Your wealth is alive. If you care for it properly, it can reproduce and grow. If you neglect it, you lose it. So when modern rune guides associate Fehu with wealth, prosperity, or abundance, that connection didn't just appear out of nowhere. Cattle were wealth. And once you understand that, Fehu starts becoming more interesting than simply saying, this is the money rune. If you watched my introductory video, you'll remember that one of the sources we're going to return to throughout this series is the Rune Poems. And Fehu gives us a really good example of why they're so useful. The surviving poems don't give us a neat little definition that says Fehu equals wealth. Instead, they give us pictures of what wealth meant. The Norwegian and Icelandic poems both associate wealth with something that can create tension between people. The Anglo-Saxon poem takes the idea in another direction by suggesting that wealth can be a comfort, but that a person should also be willing to share it. And I think there's something worth noticing here. These poems don't seem particularly interested in telling us that having wealth is either good or bad. They're interested in what happens around wealth. How do we relate to it? What happens when we have it? What happens between people because of it? And what responsibility comes with having enough to share? That's much more interesting to me than simply reducing Fehu to financial success. This is probably a good place for our first Rune Realist moment. If you look up Fehu online, sooner or later you're going to encounter interpretations that basically boil down to, if you pull Fehu, money is coming. Could it show up in a reading about finances? Of course. Wealth is clearly a part of the symbolism. But if that's where we stop, I think we lose most of what makes this rune interesting. Remember the cattle. Owning a herd didn't mean you had a pile of wealth that could just sit there indefinitely. You had to care for it. You had to protect it. You had to make decisions about how to use it. And sometimes you had to share it. So I tend to think about Fehu in terms of stewardship. What has been placed in my care and what am I doing with it? The question opens Fehu up considerably. Obviously, most of us aren't going to measure our wealth by counting cattle anymore. So let's bring this into our own lives. Remember the question I asked you at the beginning? What makes you wealthy? Money can absolutely be a part of your answer. There's nothing wrong with that. Having enough money to pay your bills, feed yourself, take care of your family, and occasionally enjoy your life matters. But what else sustains you? Maybe you've developed a skill that allows you to make a living. Maybe there's somebody in your life you can call at 2 in the morning when everything falls apart. Maybe you finally got a home where you feel safe. Maybe you have enough free time to sit here and watch a video about ancient German letters. That counts for something too. And your answers don't have to look anything like mine. That's exactly the point. I want you to figure out what Fehu looks like in your life. So here's where we're moving from learning the rune to actually living with it. For the next 7 days, I want you to carry Fehu with you somehow. If you own a rune set, carry the Fehu rune. If you don't, that's completely fine. Draw it on a small piece of paper and put it in your wallet. Make it your phone background. Put it somewhere you'll encounter it throughout your day. The object itself isn't the important part. It's there to remind you to pay attention. Whenever you notice Fehu, come back to our question. What makes me wealthy? See whether your answer changes throughout the week. And while you're doing that, pay attention to your relationship with what you already have. When do you feel like you have enough? When do you start wanting more? What do you take care of? What do you neglect? What are you willing to share? You don't need to force some profound spiritual experience out of this. Just notice. That's the experiment. I also want us to actually do something with each rune. So sometime this week, practice generosity intentionally. And don't make this harder than it needs to be. Maybe you buy somebody a coffee. Maybe you give someone a little more of your time than you normally would. Maybe you teach somebody something you're good at. The specific act isn't important. What I want you to pay attention to is what happens inside when you give something you value away. Does it feel good? Does it make you uncomfortable? Do you immediately start thinking about what you're getting in return? There's no correct reaction here. We're observing ourselves. That's part of living with the runes. If you're keeping a journal throughout these 24 weeks, don't feel like you need to write pages every night. You can if you want to, but even a couple sentences is enough. At some point this week, spend a little time with these questions. And feel free to pause if you need more time to write these down. What makes me feel genuinely wealthy? What am I responsible for taking care of? What am I afraid to lose? And what am I willing to share? You might answer them today and then answer them again at the end of the week. See if anything changes. For me, this is where Fehu gets personal. It's really easy to measure abundance by looking at whatever I don't have yet. There's always something else. Another goal, another purchase, another milestone. And when I'm constantly looking toward the next thing, it's surprisingly easy to overlook what's already sitting right in front of me. Fehu reminds me to take inventory every once in a while. Not just of what I own, but of what's actually sustaining my life. And then it asks the harder question. Am I taking good care of it? I don't always love my answer, but that's part of the practice too. So that's Fehu, or at least that's the beginning of Fehu. Because I don't think you're finished with this rune when this video ends. That's actually when the interesting part starts. Give it 7 days. Carry the rune, live with the question, pay attention to what you have, how you care for it, and how willing you are to let some of it flow outward. And then come back here. I want these comments to become part of the experience. Tell me what you noticed. Maybe Fehu reinforced something you already believed. Maybe your understanding changed. Maybe you completely disagree with something I said today. That's okay too. I want to hear about it. And if you're watching this months or years after it was originally uploaded, leave your experience anyway. You're still part of this. If somebody else is just beginning their week with Fehu, talk to them. If you've already completed yours, share what you learned. Let's build something here that goes beyond me simply telling you what a rune means. When you've spent your week with Fehu, Urus will be waiting for you. But give this one its time first. 24 runes, 24 weeks, 24 opportunities to learn something about these ancient symbols and maybe something about yourself along the way. If that's something you want to be a part of, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you'll know when the next part of our journey is ready. And if you're just finding the series, start here. There's no need to catch up. This is your week 1. Learn the rune, question the rune, live the rune. I'll see you when you're ready for Urus.